Hey everybody, welcome to this video lesson on inverted power chords. Today we're going to take a traditional power chord and just turn it upside down and make what we refer to as an inverted power chord. We'll look at some real world examples of inverted power chords in the classic rock and the modern rock genres, and I think you'll recognize at least one classic riff that was built on using inverted power chords. It should be a lot of fun, so let's get started. In order to understand an inverted power chord, we first have to be sure that we understand the construction of a traditional power chord. So just to review, a traditional two-finger power chord is played with a root note, let's say the D note on string 5, and then the fifth note of the scale, of the D scale that is, above the root. So if we were counting up the musical alphabet, that would be D, E, F, G, A. So we have a D here as a root note and an A here as the fifth above it. So when you play that chord, it would sound like this. As you can hear, a nice and tight traditional power chord sound. Now, an inverted power chord is taking the fifth note A, and instead of playing that 5 note above the D, we're going to find that note below the D and play it instead. So as it turns out, right on the other side of this D, you have an A here. So if we were to play both of those together, I would actually play it more like a bar. It would sound like this. As you can hear, that still has the power chord sound, but it's much deeper and heavier. That, in a nutshell, is an inverted power chord. As you can see, it's easy to play an inverted power chord from a power chord that's in a root 5 position. That is to say, if the root note is on the 5th string, then we can find the 5th below on the 6th string. But that then begs the question, well, what do I do if I have a power chord where the root's already on the 6th string? Like let's say a G like this. You have a G and you have the 5th above D. So then you're going to ask, well, how do I get the 5th below? I have no lower string than string 6 in order to find that note. That means we're going to have to actually look at a root 6 power chord from a 3-finger perspective. So when you have a 3-finger grip for a power chord, what you have is a root, a 5th above, and another root an octave higher than the first root. So in order to generate an inverted power chord here, we would actually start from this position and remove the lowest root. By removing the lowest root, what we essentially have is a root with a 5th below. And this is exactly the same kind of construction that's used for a song like Smoke on the Water. If you were to play this with a traditional power chord sound, you would have the lowest root as the lowest note, and therefore it would have a deeper sound that still sounds like Smoke on the Water, but it's not perfectly accurate. Now this one. As you can see, that gives a nice tight polished sound to it, and that's really the sound of Deep Purple's Smoke on the Water. Now I'd like to show you some examples of how I like to use inverted power chords with real-world examples beyond Smoke on the Water. One of my favorite things to do is to start from a root 5 chord, let's say C sharp here, and I'll either hold it as a 2-finger power chord or a 3-finger grip. And I'll let my first finger creep over to grab the low 5th below the root. Now, I just want to be clear, this is not something you can just randomly do. You have to strategically find a spot that works. A great example of this would be in the modern rock genre, where there's a lot of heavy guitars. To really get that heavy sound without doing like a drop D or something like that, you can actually use the low 5th to approximate that sound. So for instance, a song by the Foo Fighters like My Hero is an E to a C sharp power chord. And you can hear back and forth. That's how it would sound if you played it traditionally. What I like to do to just kind of beef that up a little bit is take that C sharp and roll my finger over to the low 5. It gives a much deeper, heavier sound, and I just really kind of dig that sound. So here, this is what that would sound like. So it's kind of subtle for the non-guitarist, but for the guitarist you can really tell it's got a lot more depth. It's much richer sounding than the C sharp power chord with the root at the bottom. Another great example would be to use that chord in one strategic spot to make the chord sound extra heavy. For instance, to me, one of the great examples of that is the final chord of Dream On by Aerosmith. During the very end of the song, you're progressing down a number of power chords. And then you get to the C chord, and you get that cool and the final chord is super heavy on the recording. And I think a great way to get that for guitar would be to grab your power chord and let your finger drift over, and perfect ending and great strategic use of the inverted power chord. Hey, thanks so much for checking out this video on inverted power chords. I hope you had some fun and maybe learned a little something in the process. Please be sure to visit me at jimbowley.com and like the Facebook page at Jim Bowley Guitar Instruction. I'll see you at your next guitar lesson.